Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon you. Salam sejahtera and a very good morning to all. Distinguished guest of honor, Mr. Ahmad Sharif Hambali, the CEO of Medical Device Authority, MDA, Ministry of Health Malaysia. Our respected Professor Datuk Technologist, Dr. Ahmad Fauzi bin Ismail, the Vice Chancellor of University Technology Malaysia. Our respected Professor Dato Ahmad Rafiq bin Muhammad Kadir, the patron of International Joint Conference on Medical Engineering, Science and Technology, iMEDiST 2021, Chair of ICBME, Professor Dato Kahar bin Osman, and Chair of iMEDiTech, Dr. Nurjihadah Izzah binti Ismail. And to all of our invited speakers, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in this auspicious event, iMEDiST 2021 opening ceremony. First of all, it is my great pleasure to be your MC for today's event. I am Dr. Asnida binti Abdul Wahab, streaming live from School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences, University Technology, Malaysia. And on behalf of the organizers, Meditech, iHuman, and School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences, we would like to welcome all participants, our guests of honors, delegates, and representatives from various organizations and institutions. To begin the opening ceremony with the blessing, I would like to invite Dr. Ami Putra bin Mat Saad to lead the dua recitation and a moment of silence.
Let us recite Surah Al-Fatiha together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Praise be to the God, the Lord of the worlds. Peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, and for those who followed his example till the judgment day. Allahumma ya Kareem ya Rahim. On this blessed morning, in conjunction with the International Joint Conferences on Medical Engineering, Science and Technology, iMEDiST, a joint conference between International Conference on Medical Devices and Technology, iMEDiTech 2021, and International Conference on Biosciences and Medical Engineering, ICBME 2021. We beseech thee and grateful towards you in favor of all the infinite blessings to us, your humble servant, to live in safe and prosperous life. We seek your blessings for a flawless progress of this event from the beginning till the end. We seek your guidance to steer clear of events that would detrimental the progress of this event. Ya Aziz, Ya Ghafar, please bless us with your tawfiq and hidayat. Make us a responsible intellectual. Granted us with a valuable knowledge that will be beneficial to mankind in order to gain your mardatillah. Make us your righteous servant that followed your commands and neglect the sinful act. Please forgive us for our wrongdoing. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin, 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 ya Rabbal Alameen. Thank you, Dr. Ami Putra bin Mat Saad, for the meaningful dua recitation. Excellencies, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for your information, iMEDiST 2021 is a two-day joint conference between International Conference on Medical Device and Technology, iMEDiTech 2021, and International Conference on Biosciences and Medical Engineering, ICBME 2021. iMEDiST 2021 provides a great platform for scientists, medical practitioners, researchers, engineers, academic, industrial players, government bodies and students to share their latest scientific finding and development in the area of biomedical and biosciences. And today in this particular conference, we have more than 200 participants, industrial experts and professionals joining us in this event. Therefore, via this conference, we hope that you will get a recent update on the new technology and development in the area of biomedical and biosciences, in an opportunity for you to expand and broaden up your networking and collaboration, as well as getting and exploring new research ideas that will provide beneficial impact to the community and the country. Ladies and gentlemen, to start off this opening ceremony, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Engineer Dr. Muhammad Rafiq bin Abdul Qadir, the patron of iMEDiST 2021, to deliver his welcoming speech. Professor Dr. Rafiq, the virtual stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma, rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Allahumma la sahla illa ma ja'altahu sahla wa anta taj'alul hazna idza syi'ta sahla. Allahumma inni dha'ifun faqawi fi ridhaka dha'fi wa khudh ila al-khairi binasiyati waj'alil islam muntaha ridaya. Allahumma inni dha'ifun faqawwini wa dhalilun fa'a'izzani wa faqirun fa'aghnini warzuqni. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Teknologis Dr. Ahmad Fauzi bin Ismail, Vice Chancellor of UTM, Mr. Ahmad Sharif bin Hambali, CEO, Medical Device Authority, and I have a few names as our keynote speakers. All of these are my very close friend, Professor Congo Tak Shing Ching, Professor Dr. Tengku Zaman, Dr. Adnan Sulaiman, and Professor Dr. Nashi Widodo. So, first of all, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the International Joint Conferences on Medical Engineering, Science and Technology, iMEDiST 2021. So, this is the first iMEDiST conference. The first iMEDiST conference, which is a joint conference between iMEDiTech and ICBME. Now, I think I owe all of you a bit of an explanation regarding these two conferences that we merged under the banner of iMEDiST 2021. So the first is iMEDiTech 2021. So this is actually the second conference for iMEDiTech and the third conference for ICBME. Now iMEDiTech comes from a research center called MEDiTech, Medical Devices and Technology Center, which started as a research group back in 2006. So this is now what, 2021? So, you know, a long time ago, we started a research group called MEDiTech, Medical Devices and Technology Research Group. And then, if I'm not mistaken, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, that research group has been upgraded into a center of excellence. So from MEDiTech, the G, the group, into MEDiTech C, the Center of Excellence, MEDiTech. And we started the first conference of iMEDiTech again 3 or 4 years ago. The reason being that part of the KPI for Center of Excellence is to promote the research aspect related to the center. So we organize a conference especially for the research center itself. And then ICBME, the International Conference on Biosciences and Medical Engineering, actually comes from the Faculty of Bioscience and Medical Engineering, which is no longer available. Previously, in UTM, we have two faculties that merge under one Faculty of Biosciences and Medical Engineering. So we have lecturers specializing in biosciences, and then we also have engineering lecturers specializing in biomedical engineering. So you can say that there are two departments, basically two departments, one on the sciences and one on the engineering aspect. And then 3 years ago, we split the faculty, FBME, Faculty of Biosciences and Medical Engineering. The science department goes back to the Faculty of Science, and the engineering component moved to the Faculty of Engineering. So we rebrand under the Faculty of Engineering as the School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences. So that is a brief history about ICBME and iMEDiTech. So ICBME comes from School of Biomedical Engineering, which was previously Faculty of Biosciences and Medical Engineering. And then iMEDiTech comes from a research center, Medical Devices and Technology Center. So the theme for this particular conference, the synergy for future sustainability. It is a synergy between the School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences and the center, the Medical Devices and Technology Center. So it's a synergy between the school and the center. So we organize these international joint conferences on medical engineering, science and technology, iMEDiST 2021. I would like to congratulate all the committee members for their hard work and to make sure that this conference becomes a reality. It is interesting to see all the papers presented in this particular conference, a combination of biomedical engineering and biosciences. Now, let me read some of the text prepared by the committee members, otherwise they would be disappointed. Right, so let me skip. All right, let's go to the conclusion part. We are very fortunate to have the support from the School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences, the Institute for Human-Centered Engineering, IHUN, and the Medical Devices and Technology Center, MEDiTech, as the conference organizers. We are proud to announce our conference co-hosts, the Universitas Hasanuddin, Universitas Airlangga, National Chongqing University, Taiwan, Bioactive Material Focus Group Biomar, University Tun Hussein on Malaysia, Center of Excellence Advanced Computing, ADVCOM, University Malaysia Perlis, and Sports Engineering Advanced Research Group, SPEAR, University Tun Hussein on Malaysia. We are grateful to our collaborators, Kumpulan Perubatan Penawar Sdn Bhd, eLife Solutions, ELS, and Mindmatics Sdn Bhd for sponsoring the awards for undergraduate poster competition. Last but not least, special thanks are due to the more than 30 organizing committees for their dedications in making this event successful despite all the difficulties and challenges due to the pandemic. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much, Professor Dato Engineer Dr. Muhammad Rafiq bin Abdul Qadir, for the always inspiring and energetic speech. Next, I'm honored to invite Mr. Ahmad Sharif Hambali, the CEO of Medical Device Authority, MDA, from Ministry of Health Malaysia, to deliver his opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Ahmad Sharif Hambali.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. I'm indeed very pleased and honored to have the opportunity to welcome all of you here today to this great event, the International Joint Conference on Medical Engineering, Science and Technology, iMEDiST 2021. I'm very happy that an event such as this is held so we could witness the latest innovative technologies and advances of global medical devices and medical solutions, and in doing so, provide a platform to foster the latest scientific findings and development in biomedical engineering and biosciences areas. Ladies and gentlemen, the medical device industry in Malaysia is a highly diversified industry that produces a broad range of products and equipment ranging from medical gloves, implantable devices, and orthopedic devices, to name a few. The industry consists of industry players such as manufacturers, suppliers, and importers, as well as exporters of medical devices. Medical device industry has emerged as one of the industry that is growing rapidly. As for Malaysia, we are known as the world-leading manufacturer of rubber-based products, such as medical gloves, condom, and catheters, whereby Malaysia fulfills 80% of the world demand for catheters and 60% for rubber gloves. In total, these three products account for approximately 85% of the total exports. In addition to those rubber-based products, Malaysian manufacturers also produce other medical devices, which include syringes, needles, procedure kits, surgical and dental instruments, products made from plastic, silicone, and metal alloys, just to name a few. In recent years, the medical device industry has shifted focus to the higher end of the product spectrum. Manufacturers are racing to diversify to more lucrative subsectors such as electromedical equipment, orthopedics and dental implants, next generation of single-use devices, and the fast-growing in vitro diagnostics. This would lead to economic growth and increased employability opportunities in the future. Moreover, the industry shows great promise in creating high-income jobs, generating greater export value, and enforcing the domestic supply chain ecosystem. That saying, Malaysia is an ideal location for investments in the medical device sector due to its strong intellectual property protection regime and strategic geographic location. We also possess highly skilled human resource in production and management, unsaturated domestic market with high growth potential. Our government has been introducing incentives to attract foreign investors to invest in the Malaysian medical device industry. The industry shows great promise in creating high income jobs, generating greater export value, and enforcing the domestic supply chain ecosystem. There is potential to further develop Malaysia as a medical device hub for both R&D and manufacturing in view of the strong supporting industries ranging from sterilization services, sterile medical packaging, precision engineering, tool and die making, medical compounding to contract molding, assembly and machinery fabrication, laboratory testing facilities, as well as electronic manufacturing services. The availability of these supporting industries has enhanced Malaysia's position as an outsourcing destination and global supplier of parts and components for major medical device and equipment companies. This is where scientists, medical practitioners, engineers, academics, and students, such as you who attend this conference, play a very important role to make use of all the available supporting industries to come out with new ideas and to invent and innovate and hence make Malaysia as a medical device hub in this region. Ladies and gentlemen, Medical Device Authority is a statutory body under the Ministry of Health Malaysia, which was established under the Medical Device Authority Act 2012 or Act 738 to control and regulate medical device, its industry and activities, as well as to enforce medical device laws under the Medical Device Act 2012 or Act 737, with two main aims: namely to address public health and safety issues related to medical devices and to facilitate medical device trade in industry. I'm proud to announce that to date, since the implementation of the Medical Device Act in 2013, more than 40,000 groups of medical devices have been registered with MDA. This shows the seriousness and reliability of the Malaysian medical device industry to conform to the regulatory requirements and to grow and compete in a global market. There is always a growing need for new invention and innovation to spearhead growth of the medical device industry in Malaysia. With that, I would like to applaud and congratulate the organizing committee from the Medical Engineering, Science and Technology of UTM for making this event and meeting possible. I hope you will gain a wonderful experience and plenty of useful knowledge from the conference. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, Mr. Ahmad Sharif Hambali. We really appreciate your presence in this prestigious event. Next, it is my great pleasure to invite our Vice Chancellor of University Technology Malaysia, Professor Datuk Technologist Dr. Ahmad Fauzi bin Ismail, to deliver his officiating speech. Let us all together welcome Professor Datuk Technologist Dr. Ahmad Fauzi bin Ismail.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and greetings to all. It is my great pleasure to welcome all keynote speakers, invited speakers and participants to the first International Joint Conferences on Medical Engineering, Science and Technology, iMEDiST 2021, virtually at University Technology Malaysia. That also means a great welcome to the second International Medical Devices and Technology Conferences, iMEDiTech 2021, and the third International Conference on Biosciences and Medical Engineering, ICBME 2021. The chosen terms, synergy for future sustainability, is relevant to UTM core values, integrity, synergy, excellence, and sustainability, along with the UTM vision and mission. The establishment of research alliances such as health and wellness and frontiers materials give significant impact in expanding the medical engineering, sciences, and technology in UTM. Ladies and gentlemen, the global medical devices market is expected to recover and reach $603.5 billion in 2023. Malaysia continues to grow as a medical devices manufacturing hub in the region as the operation base for more than 30 multinational corporations. Therefore, Malaysia is committed in providing advanced medical devices such as electromedical devices, cardiovascular devices, orthopedic devices, and in vitro diagnostic products. In line with trends, the Institute of Human-Centered Engineering, iHuman, was established to be a premier research institution in human-centered engineering with the dynamic synergy of 4 research centers, namely IJN UTM Cardiovascular Engineering Center, Media and Game Innovation Center of Excellence, MagicX, Medical Devices and Technology Center, MEDITECH, and Sport Innovation Technology Center, SITC. Meanwhile, the School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences is providing several undergraduate and postgraduate academic programs under the Department of Biomedical Engineering and Department of Clinical Science and Sport Technology, with the support by a few research groups specialized in biomedical engineering and health sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, the first ICBME 2016 and the first iMEDiTech 2017 were held at the Faculty of Biosciences and Medical Engineering, FBMB, UTM Johor Bahru. In July 2018, FBMB was unmerged to School of Biomedical Engineering and Health Sciences, Faculty of Engineering, and Department of Biosciences, Faculty of Science. However, the collaboration was continued with the second ICBME in Bali, Indonesia, hosting more than 100 guests. And today, we have received around 270 participants coming from all over the world, including Indonesia, Japan, United Kingdom, and Pakistan, who took part in either oral or poster presentation. The aim of this joint conference is to provide a synergized communication platform for multidisciplinary topics such as artificial intelligence, ergonomics, signal processing, advanced material, tissue engineering, biofluid, bioinstrumentation, biomedical diagnostics, biomechanics, biomedical devices, medical sciences, healthcare technologies, biosciences, and animal sciences. We are also fortunate to have support from our international co-hosts, Universitas Hasanuddin, Universitas Erlangga, National Chongqing University, and our national co-host. Before I conclude, I would also like to congratulate the organizers in making this conference a success. This synergized effort is very praiseworthy due to the endless effort taken despite the pandemic that hits all over the world. On that note, it gives me great pleasure to officiate the first international joint conferences on medical engineering science and technology, iMEDiST 2021. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Dato Technologist Dr. Ahmad Fauzi bin Ismail, for your remarkable opening speech and for officiating the International Joint Conferences on Medical Engineering, Science and Technology, iMEDiST 2021. Moving next, we'll be entering the first keynote session. However, let us have a short break and kindly stay tuned with us. We will be back in a few minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now entering our first keynote session. We are honored to invite our first keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Congo Ku Cheng, all the way brought to you from Taiwan to deliver his presentation. But before that, let me introduce Professor Congo Ku Cheng to all of our audience today. Professor Congo obtained his bachelor degree in prosthetic and orthotic from the Hong Kong Polytechnic University in 1999. He then received his Master of Philosophy in Biomedical Engineering from the same university in the year of 2002. In 2005, he then obtained his doctorate degree in the bioengineering from the University of Strathclyde, Glasgow, United Kingdom. Professor Congo is currently serving as a chair at the Graduate Institute of Biomedical Engineering, National Chung Sing University, NCHU, Taiwan. His main expertise are in the area of biomedical instrumentation, biosensor, tissue bioimpedance, biomedical electronics, biomedical optoelectronics, non-invasive medical diagnostics, and assistive technology. So without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Congo Ku Cheng to deliver his keynote speech with the title Bioimpedance for Non-Invasive Biomedical Application. Professor Congo, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much for your introduction. So it's my great honor to be here to give a talk. Can anyone see my screen here? Can you see my PowerPoint? Excuse me. Hello. Can you see my PowerPoint? Okay, that's great. Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Congo Cheng, and I come from Taiwan as introduced by the chairman. I'm now working at the National Chung Sing University at the Graduate Institute of Biomedical Engineering. Today, I'm very honored to be here to share my experience on how to use the bioimpedance technique in my research. And so I'm going to give a talk on the bioimpedance for non-invasive biomedical applications. So maybe most people have never been to Taiwan or even at the National Chung Sing University. So let me introduce my university first. NCHU is located in center and western part of the Taiwan, that is Taichung. We have a high-speed rail, and it only takes about 1 hour to reach the Taipei or Kaohsiung, where we have the international airport. In fact, Taichung also have an international airport. In addition, NCHU is located in the center of the Taiwan, so our location is very, very convenient for the students to study here. As you can see that we have a very traditional fun gate, because we have our university have a history of more than 100 years old already, and we have an artificial lake, and you can see so many ecosystems here. Just for example, birds, swarm, fish, duck, and even turtles. And behind the lake, you can see that we have the second largest university library in Taiwan. So you have seen the day view of the on-campus artificial lake. Right now, you can have a look on the light wheel. I think it's much more beautiful. Okay, so actually around our campus, we have a small river behind our university. There you can date, boat, relax, and reading there. So it's quite nice for the students to study at NCHU. So here is the outline of my talk. I'll try to share my experience on how to use the bioimpedance on the bioimpedance to detect the oral cancer, skin inflammation, as well as the pressure sore. So at the end, I will try to describe how I developed a machine in order to document all these kind of diseases as well. Maybe not so many people know what is bioimpedance. Actually, it's quite simple. Let us have a look on this diagram. So if we don't know what is inside on this matter, then we can just try to use the impedance technique. by the use of the 4 electrode configurations. For the 2 outermost electrodes, we can inject a constant AC current. And for the 2 innermost electrodes, we can try to measure the potential difference. By the use of this equation, then we can calculate it best the impedance inside this matter. Remember, the constant AC currents means that the currents can be at any frequency. So the applications of the bioimpedance is a lot. Just for example, when we go to have a body check to see whether we are too fat, then in the past we can using this kind of body fat meter, but it seems a little bit painful. Okay, right now if you go to the clinic, you no need to using such meter anymore. You using this kind of body fat meter to measure your body fat. Body fat is very convenient. Principle is by the use of the bioimpedance. So this device will try to inject 0.1 milliampere AC current at a frequency of 50 kHz into your body, and by the use of the empirical formula, it can calculate it back what is your body fat. Other than that, applications, the bioimpedance can also apply on cellular biology. Just for example, so many scientists want to calculate how much cells is suspended in a liquid. So the culture counter actually employs the principles of the bioimpedance. So let us have a look on this diagram. Here we have a chamber, and the chamber is separated by a membrane. So it means that we have 2 chambers, and the 2 chambers is separated by a membrane. So the membrane have a fixed pore size to allow the suspension cells to pass through it. So when we try to inject a constant current inside these 2 chambers, if no cell pass through this membrane, it means that the currents can freely to flow through it. It means that it will have low impedance. But when the cell pass through the membrane, it blocks the way for the currents to flow. It means that it has high impedance. So by counting how many times the impedance change up, low, then we can count how much cells is inside the suspension. Other than that, we can also use the bioimpedance to see whether our blood vessels is occluded or not. So when you go to have a body check to see our blood vessels at the leg, for example, normally we will be asked to lie on the bed and then with a cuff to tight on the upper leg. So when this cuff is inflated, so a lot of pressure will compress onto the artery, and lesser blood will go into the lower leg. But after it is fully complete, more blood is already inside the lower leg. So because of the blood have a lot of iron, that's irons, IONS irons. So it means that the impedance will drop. So once it is fully blood, no more blood can go into the lower leg, and it means that its impedance will become steady. But after we remove the pressure onto the cuff slowly, then the blood can return. Once it returns, the blood inside the lower leg will be decreased. It means that the impedance will increase slowly. Okay, so by the use of these 2 slopes, we can see that the inflow rate can be used for the to see whether we have the atrial occlusion, and the outflow rate can let us know to see whether we have the deep venous thrombosis. So the bioimpedance can also be used for the impedance cardiography to estimate the stroke volume of the heart. Once we can measure the stroke volume of the heart, we can calculate it back what is the cardio output of the patient. So how does it work? Again, it's the same principle. For the 2 outermost electrodes, we inject the current, and the 2 innermost electrodes, we will try to measure the potential difference in order to calculate the impedance change. Once we have the impedance change, we can use the formulas to calculate the stroke volume. Last but not the next, bioimpedance can also be used for the breast cancer detections. Siemens has developed a device. Its name is called Scan TS2000, which is FDA approved and which can be used adjacent to the mammography to detect the breast cancer. So Right now, I need to tell because the basic principle for the bioimpedance may not be so clear for all of you guys. That's why I need to tell a little bit about the theory behind the bioimpedance. As we all know, that the basic unit of our human body is the cell, and the cell consists of the cell membrane. In front of you is the cell membrane. It has the protein, channel, and lipid layer. So for the protein channel, if it can be either closed or it can be opened or closed. Once it is opened, a lot of the solutions can go in and go out. It just looks like a resistor. If it's closed, the resistance will be very high. If it opens, the resistance of the resistors will be very low. So how about for the lipid layer? Lipid layers can only allow the high frequency currents to flow through it, but not DC currents. So it has the characteristics of the capacitor. So to sum up, in order to represent a cell membrane, we can using this equivalent circuits to represent it. It is a parallel combination of capacitors together with a resistor. So how about for a cell? Because the previous slide we just mentioned the cell membrane. For a cell, for a single cell, it just looks like that, because I have already talked about the equivalent circuits for the cell membrane, so we no need to discuss it anymore. So how about for the intracellular and extracellular medium? For the intracellular and extracellular medium, it has a lot of ions. That's why it just looks like a resistor. So in order to have the equivalent circuits to represent a single cell, this is the equivalent circuits to represent the single cell. To further simplify this circuit, it will be look like this, because most of the times the protein channel of the cell membrane is not open, it's closed. So it means that the resistance will be very, very high. It means that the RMs normally can be ignored. So it's the very simplified equivalent circuits to represent the single cell will be look like this. And most of my research is based on this simple model. So right now, I'll talk about how I use the bioimpedance to measure the oral cancer. The reasons why we focusing on oral cancer, because it's a serious problems all over the world, because it holds the 6 most frequently occurrence cancer worldwide, and actually is the top oral cancer. Is a very serious cancer in Taiwan as well. Most of the times, the oral cancer happened on the tongue. And in Taiwan, the prevalence in the past 10 years increased 160% already. And for the mortality, it increased 110%. That is the reason why we're focusing on how we can detect the oral cancer in its early stage. For the routine clinical practice, normally we use visual inspections to see whether the first screening test is to use our naked eyes to see whether the patient is suffering from oral cancer. Once the patient is suspected to have the oral cancers, we will have another sophisticated test. But you see, if you see this diagram, of course, you know that probably the patient may have problems on his tongue. Of course, further investigation, further diagnosis will be carried on. But how about for this small spot? This small spots, most of the time, people will just think that maybe we eat a lot of deep fried chips. That's why we have this small spot. But actually, it is a cancer. It is a cancer spot. So if we don't care of it, it will develop like this. Okay. So that's why most of the times the oral cancer, once we discover, is already at the latest stage, because no people can detect it in the early stage. So how we can do it? And we have made a specific probe with 4 electrode configuration, 2 electrodes to inject the current and 2 electrodes to measure the potential difference, and by the use of the precision impedance analyzer. And as I mentioned before, I will using this equivalent circuits to represent the cell or even the tissue. The mathematical equations for this equivalent circuits will be look like this. So when we try to pass a current into this model, so if the current is DC, so DC currents cannot flow through the capacitor. It means that all the DC currents can only flow through the extracellular medium. In this example, we try to using 20 Hertz as the low frequency. Okay, for the high frequency current, it is not only able to flow through the extracellular mediums, but also can flow through this capacitor. It means that the high frequency currents can flow both direction, and we can count by measuring the impedance of the holes of this whole model. Then we can find it out the extracellular resistance and intracellular resistance. Okay, so by after that we can calculate it as the ratio as well. So this is the result. What we can find, we find that the extracellular resistance of the cancellous tissue has a significantly lower resistance as compared with the surrounding normal tongue tissue. Why? We can using these models to have a look. So as you can see in this diagram, here is, for example, the tongue tissue. We have a lot of cell here. If you still remember, the low frequency currents can only flow through the extracellular medium, and the extracellular mediums have low impedance. Why the extracellulars have low impedance? This is because that most of the time the cancer cell is loosely packed as compared to a healthy tongue tissue. The healthy tongue tissue, all the cells are well packed together. That's why the intercellular space for the normal tongue tissue is narrow, but not for the cancellous tongue tissue. The cancellous tongue tissue have a wider intercellular space, so the low frequency currents can easily to pass through it. That's the reason why it has lower resistance on it. Okay. So how about for the intracellular resistance? As we find that there is almost no difference between the cancellous tongue tissue and the surrounding normal tongue tissue on its intracellular resistance. So as we all know that it is, if we don't normalize all the data, it's quite difficult to compare the data from subjects to subjects. So that's why we try to normalize the data. We try to measure the extracellular resistance of the tongue tissue of the patient. At the same time, we also measure the intracellular resistance of the tongue tissue of the same patient. Then we try to take using these two data to make the ratio. And by the use of these ratios, we have the self-normalizations to eliminate the subject-to-subject variation. And based on this ratio, we also find that we have a significance lower on this ratio on the cancellous tongue tissue as compared to the surrounding normal tongue tissue. So right now, I'll talk about how we can use how I apply the impedance techniques on measuring the skin inflammation. As we all know, that skin inflammation we would normally call the redness, edema, even sometimes tissue destructions on the skin. And normally, again, we also using the visual inspections to see whether we have the skin inflammation at the beginning, and it is very subjective. Of course, the most appropriate phase may be the biopsy, but this kind of technique is invasive, painful. It makes a lot of scar and not real time. That is the reason why we try to see whether bioimpedance can help us to see the skin inflammation. So we try to use the animal models, the rat, to do the experiment. We're using the back of the rat and shave all the hair, one side, the left-hand side as the induced side, and the right-hand side as the control side. For the induced side, we will try to using some chemicals to induce the inflammation, and we were using 4 electrical configurations to measure the bioimpedance at both sides. So here is the result. Here is the result. At week 0, it means that at the beginning of the experiment, you can see that nothing changed because we didn't apply any chemical, and so both left and right hand side, the inspection, the visual inspection, exactly the same. Throughout the whole experiment, all the rats are still alive and they are still very happy without any notable reduction in their activities, and no illness, no weight loss. But you will find that on the left-hand side, that is the skin inflammation induction side. You will see that here after week 2, it has a little bit redness, and after week 4, not just redness, it has some crashed skin. And for week 8, the redness become more severe, and then it has the cracked skin as well. So it means that the induction method, this skin information induction method is okay, which can induce the information by the visual inspection. So we need to know what happened inside the skin then. So here is the histopathological finding for the control side, that is the right hand side. It means that nothing, we did nothing on that side, and the skin very good, normal healthy red skin. But how about for the left hand side, that is the skin inflammation side? We can see that this is week 8. This is after 8 weeks of the inflammation induction, and after 8 weeks, then we sacrifice the rat and take the skins for the histopathological inspections. You can see that we can find some slight epidermis crashed, as you can see from figure 8 and figure B, and even if we try to enlarge the figures, we can find some ulceration here, and we can also find some infiltration in here as well. So it means that by visual inspection, we can see inflammation occurs. By histopathological inspection, it has inflammation exactly. So how about for the bioimpedance finding? For the bioimpedance findings, we try to measure the impedance of the skin on both induced side and the control side on day 0, week 4, and week 8. We find that there is 2 characteristic peaks here. There is 2 characteristic peaks here for both infection side as well as the inflammation side or the control side. And you can see that for the control side, they are almost the same. Okay, almost the same. But how about for the inflammation side? Its impedance decreased with the increase of the week of the induction of the inflammations to the skin. Okay, so after we know this, we need to explain why. As I mentioned before, normally the inflammation for the skin will have the redness. The redness means that a lot of blood will go into the inflammation areas to repair, to take out all the inflammatory factor or to repair the skin. So that's why if a lot of blood inside intercellular space will become looser a little bit, and also a lot of blood inside, because blood have a lot of iron, for example, sodium ion and potassium ion. It means that it's very easy to conduct the electricity. That is the reason why for the inflammation skin, it will have a lower impedance. Okay, so if we just simply using this absolute values of the impedance to document it, it's not that good. That is the reason why we try to using a ratio. Just for example, if we say whether a people is fat or not, we can't just simply measure the circumference of the waist. We need to measure the body mass index. The same principle applied into this experiment. We need to normalize all this kind of data. So that's why, because we have 2 peaks here, so we measure the inflammation skin at 4.5 kHz, and also measure the inflammation skin at 48.3 kHz. Then we mix this ratio, and we find that for the control side, it means no inflammation induction area. All this ratio is around 10. It's almost constant throughout the whole experiment, but not for the inflammation side. So it means that this ratio can help us to see whether the skin is under inflammation or not. And we also do the normal distribution test, and all this kind of data is normally distributed. And we also use studies the intra-rater reliability test by use of the inter-classical relation coefficients 3:1, and we all find that they have excellent intra-rater reliability, because all this value is almost equals to 1. Okay, right now I will talk about how I apply the bioimpedance on the measurements of the pressure shock. So as you can see, there's this is the mild. If we for the people who can't move and always lie down on the bed, because of the bony prominence, because of the pressure, no blood circulations can be, no good blood circulations will be around this area, and it will have redness at the beginning. But if we don't care and if we don't turn around the body of the patient every 2 hours, then maybe this situation will become worse and worse, and finally it will develop like this pressure ulcer sore or pressure sore. So how we try to see whether the impedance techniques can help us to find out the early pressure sore. Okay, so let's say this circle is the pressure sore, and we try to put 4 sets of the electrode, 2 sets close to the wound and another 2 sets of the electrode far away from the wound, and each set of the electrode have 4 electrode pairs. Okay, 2 for the injection of the current and 2 for the measurement of the potential difference. So again, I'm using the same model again. So it means that only the low frequency, almost DC currents can flow through the extracellular medium, and high frequency current can flow through both direction, intracellular and extracellular medium. So here is the result. We find that the two sides close to the wound have a low impedance as compared to the 2 sides far away from the wound, and we find a specific what we so-called the characteristic frequency range around 30 hertz up to 125 hertz. You can see that this is a low frequency. As I told you, low frequency normally flow through the extracellular resistance. So right now we need to have a low frequency extracellular resistance. So the reasons why the pressure sore, you see close to the wound, it means that the cell is net of nutrition, net of oxygens. They are going to die, maybe died already. If they died already, then the intercellular space will become wider, and that's why the current can easy to flow through it. The low frequency current can flow through it. It means that the extracellular resistance will be lower. That is the reasons why the 2 sides close to the wound have a lower impedance. If we just compare the impedance, absolute impedance by itself, it seems not that good. That is the reasons why we try to using the normalization techniques, same as the our cancer study. So we try to find out the extracellular resistance, and we find that the extracellular resistance for the 2 sides close to the wound lower as compared to the 2 sides far away from the wound. So this is what I mentioned it before already, because the extracellular resistance normally allowed is by the measure of the low frequency current. So that's why it's low here. So there's no significant change, no difference around the intracellular resistance, and we try to mix the ratio and find that close to the wound, the 2 sides have a low ratio as compared to the 2 regions far away from the wound. So right now, because I have done several studies on the application of the bioimpedance on either measuring the oral cancer, skin inflammations, and the pressure sore, and by the use of the very sophisticated and very precision impedance analyzer. So right now I try to develop our own machines by ourselves. So here we will talk about how we make the 2D bioimpedance imaging systems. So here is the architecture of the imaging system, because all these kind of, for example, tongue cancer, the inflammation of the skin, as far as the pressures are, they are almost all superficial tissue. That's why for the measure of the superficial tissue, we try to make a specific probe, and we will have the multi-process to switch all these kind of probe sensor. And then we also construct our own bioimpedance readout circuit, and then by the use of the ZBeast wirelessly transmits to the computer, where we have established a custom-made program by ourselves as well. software programmed by ourselves. So you can see here is the hardware, here is the probe, and wirelessly transmits to the computer, and inside the computer we have our program inside. Here is the probe. We have 256 Go. This is Go sensor, and every 4 sensor will form a cell. So we have 8 times 8 resolutions for this probe. Okay, so 2 electrodes for the injections of the current and 2 electrodes for the measurements of the percentage difference. Here is the program we have developed by the use of the Visual Basic, and in order to convert all the bioimpedance measured data, and by the use of our algorithms to convert it into the image. So you can see that there's 2 lines here. If all these color within these 2 lines, it means that they are normal. Outside these 2 lines, it means that they are abnormal. So here is the histogram. You can see that this line is within these 2 red lines. It means that all this measurement normal. All this measurement is well normal. And we also have the coordinates to say, because we have 64 location, and all these 64 locations will be mentioned here. So it not just tell us where it whether the tested cell is mutated or have pathological problem, and it also tell us the location as well. So we need to see whether how good is our system, and our impedance measurement system has been compared with the precision impedance analyzer, and it just have 0.5% error as compared to the commercial precision impedance analyzer. It means that our bioimpedance measurement circuit is very accurate, and by the use of the BA port, it also tells us that our device is accurate as well, because all these kinds of points is within these 2 standard deviation lines. And right now, I need to test whether how good is whether our systems can tell us whether the test tissue have problem and where is the problem. So we have the column A, B, C. Column A here, we have the gel, and with the gel, and column B here, we have the gel, and then we remove part of it, and then we fill the gel without any sodium ion. It means that high resistance here. So column C, we remove the middle part. So you can see the location is different. We remove the middle part, and we fill the gel with a lot of the sodium ion. It means that very conductive. So we put this gel on top of the sensor. You can see the bottom is the probe sensor we have, and try to measure it. And it find that because for this cell, it is within the normal color. It means that all these are normal. But for this one, you can see that this one have a high resistance, high impedance, and it also show us the location. It means that this have problem. And the same for the column C. This has problem but has low resistance. This is the in vitro study. So this in vitro study not just tell us whether the device can help us to quantify whether it has problem. It also help us to localize the location of the problem as well. Right now, I try to using the biological tissue to see whether it can test on the biological tissue, because the previous one is using the agarose gel. So we use the process skin and the process tongue, and then at the beginning we try to measure the process skin. We put the probe on to this area and measure with this resistance, with this imaging. But after we used burned very high temperature ions to make a scar onto the process skin as well as the process tongue, we find that around the middle region, we find that because all the cell is dead, with the scar. The scar normally have very high impedance to very high impedance. So we find that here high impedance at the middle location as well. So here is all the reference for all the paper I present. And finally, I need to thank for several organizations and people, because all these organizations support me the grants to conduct all this kind of research. And then all these people are my collaborator, and then for my students as well, because they help all my students help us to carry out all the experiment. So last but not least, I want to tell all of you know that we National Chongqing University will hold international conference at our university at Taichung. So this is the third conference, all right, this is the third international symposium on engineering and technology, and this conference will be held on this November on 19th and 20th, and the main theme is mainly on the technology and engineering for healthcare. If you are interested, you can just simply take a QR code here to know more about the conference detail. So right now, I just want to know that I hope after I share my experience here, I can get some collaborations all over the world, because as we all know that I'm just this small, but with all of you, we can have a very good idea, very good experiment. So thank you for your attention, and right now is the question and answer session. So is there any question?
Professor Congo. All right.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Professor Congo, for the very insightful sharing
Yep.
on bioimpedance for non-invasive biomedical application. It is amazing to know the potential of bioimpedance to be used in different diagnose and tests for
Yep.
different diseases. And I believe that all of our audience today can relate to your interesting presentation. So now I would like to open this session to our participant. If you have any question, you may leave your questions or comment regarding the presentation in our chat box. Okay, Professor, we do have a few questions here. The
Okay.
first one is, this is from our participants, yeah? Is it possible to detect bone marrow movement using bioimpedance?
Bone marrow. Is it bone
Bone
marrow?
marrow, yes.
Bone marrow is
Yes,
difficult
yes.
because the bioimpedance technique can only allow us to measure superficial tissue rather than the deep tissue, because the bone marrow is inside the bone. It's so deep for us to measure. So the bioimpedance technique may not be applicable for the bone marrow, except we insert the two probes attached onto the bone, but it becomes invasive. It is out of the main theme of my discussion of my topic, because I try to find some non-invasive method. Okay, so in order to have non-invasive, we can only allow it can only allow us to measure the superficial. This is the limitation of the bioimpedance for superficial tissue only. Yep.
All right, thank you. So it can be done, but it is not going to be non-invasive, right, Prof?
Yes.
Okay, we have another question from our participant. The question is, do you have any experience in combining electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, the EIS, with bioimpedance?
Yes, this is a very good question. Actually, the bioimpedance not just help us to document whether we have any pathological change on our tissue. We can also use the impedance techniques on biosensor. Actually, it is one of my research area as well. As you introduced me before, one of my research interests is on biosensor. So for me, I'll try to. We have made some immunosensors is by the use of the. For me, we have conduct some experiments on the immunosensor. The immunosensor, we try to immobilize the antibody onto the sensor, and by the use of the impedance to measure the impedance spectrums to see whether we can use this kind of immunosensors to create a point of care testing device. Yep. Yeah, it can. I have experience on it as well.
All right. So it improved the result, Prof? Does it improve the result if you're combining these two methods?
Oh, no. Well, it's totally different. So should we say like that? The topic I just present is directly applied onto the humans to see whether there's some pathological change on the superficial tissue. But what you asked me, EIS, electrical impedance spectroscopy. Yep. Actually, I applied this kind of technique on biosensor. Just for example, if we try to have a pinprick onto our fingers to take some blood out and put it onto the sensor, then the blood inside the blood, maybe we have some biomarkers we are interested, and then we have the corresponding antibody, and the antibody is immobilized onto the sensor, and then we can using the impedance spectroscopy to find out the characteristic frequency in order to document quantify the amount of the target biomarkers. Yeah, it's different. It's different kind of research.
All right, that's a great explanation, Prof. We do have a few more questions. We're going to the next one, coming from our participant from a YouTube channel. Yeah, how do we relate the body mass loss with the? Okay. So Janifar Alipal said, "Dear Prof, thanks for the interesting presentation. So the question is, how do we relate the body mass loss with the measured impedance?"
Oh, body mass loss. Okay, this is a very good question because we try to measure the impedance at real time. It is a real-time bioimpedance measurement. It means that it is impossible for us to have the body mass loss just 1 second later. Do you know what I mean? Once I measure, then after 1 minute, we will not lose any body mass. That's why there's no effect. There's no direct effect on it. Immediately directly effect on it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
you, Prof.
Yep.
Yes, I think so. Thank you. We will proceed with 1 or 2 more questions because we are running out of time. But there's a lot of questions from our participants.
Okay.
They are very eager to ask you questions. I think it's a very interesting topic. So what is the future plan for this concept? Do you think bioimpedance can be, further applied in any other unexplored area?
Yep, that is the reason. So recently, I'm not just applied the bioimpedance techniques on humans, but also applied on some for example, agriculture fruit. Not related to human anymore. For example, I try to measure the banana, the fish, etc., etc.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But maybe the circle will be different, from the human body circuit.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, the idea will be different. Yeah.
Okay. We would like to take a few more before we close our session. What will be the most challenging part in your research regarding these studies, Prof?
The most challenging part, to be honest, is quite. The most challenging part is we need to have enough patients to conduct all this kind of research. Do you know what I mean? Because as you can see, all the 3 example study I mentioned in my talk, 2 is related to human, 1 is related to animal. For the animal study, of course, we can have a lot to we can buy a lot of animals to do the experiments. But for the human study, it doesn't mean that we can recruit adequate people to conduct experiment. That's why sometimes it's quite difficult to draw the conclusion. That is the reasons why. Right now I just share 3 of the most successful examples for all of you. That's why we still encounter the bioimpedance studies actually has a very large potential to document the diseases. But before we are able to document the diseases, we need to have a very, very well controlled clinical study. That is what I'm encountering. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I can relate to what you are saying, Prof. Yeah. In biomedical, you are dealing with human with different physiology, with different the compositions of body, So it's really hard to come up with a standardized result for all. Yeah.
Yes. If the sample size is too small, that's the most challenging part. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think we'll take the last one before we end our session. Is there any opportunity for research collaboration with NCHU? If there is anyone who like to collaborate with this in this topic,
yes,
so they can directly contact you.
yeah, definitely. If all of you are interested on this bioimpedance study, definitely you can contact me, and then I'm so sorry I forgot to mention my email. So if you are interested, and you can, I don't know where, you can just simply type NCHU Congo Cheng, then you can find my contact information. I'm very open to, I'm really like to have international collaborations with all the student, professor, etc. and etc.
All right. Glad to hear that, Prof. So to our participant, if you are interested to have a collaboration with Prof Congo, please find him in Google. You know, he's very famous in NCHU, so you may directly get in touch with him. And I think we are done with our question and answer session. Thank you again, Prof. From the behalf of the organizer, we would like to thank you for your keynote speech. Yeah, and we hope to sustain this networking and collaboration with you and also NCHU. And we hope to see you again in the coming event.
Okay,
all right.
Thank you very
So,
much. Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen, thank you very much and have a nice day, Prof. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to the end of iMEDiST 2021 opening ceremony. Once again, on behalf of organizer, we are very delighted to have everyone here joining us today, gracing the opening ceremony event with your presence. And to all of our participants, you may have a short break and get ready for your upcoming parallel session. You may enter your respected parallel session room via the given WebEx link. And for more updates and information, please visit our official website. Ladies and gentlemen, just for the heads up, iMEDiST 2021 will resume at 2 p.m. for the second keynote session from the Director of University of Malaya Medical Center, UMMC, Professor Tunku Kamaruzzaman Tunku Zainul Abidin, and then followed by the first invited speaker session from Prof Dr Janhausen. Thank you once again to everyone. Good luck to all participants and have a great conference day to all. I'm Asnida Abdul Wahab signing off for now and see you again this afternoon. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.